Is the time. So farewell, Boris Johnson, after 1,100 plus days, going out with a flourish as he came in, of course, talking about bouncing around on space hoppers, likening himself to a booster rocket now splashing down in the Pacific, but defending his, even using the analogy of Dylan the dog and Larry the cat. If they can get on, so should the Conservatives. We'll hear what you make of it in just a moment. Mickey, Tony, you're right at the top of the line. But let's get a view from a very senior member of the government, and possibly even more senior member of the next government. I speak of Chief Secretary of the Treasury, Simon Clarke, who joins me now. I do hope, I see you're in a studio. I hope we facilitated the opportunity for you to hear it all. If so, your reaction. Mr. Clarke, good morning.
Good morning, Nick. Yeah, I did hear the speech that Boris gave, and I thought it was typically Boris, really, and it gave a very fair summary of the huge achievements of his time in office. And we mustn't lose sight of what he's done in 3 years. Whether that be breaking the deadlock in Parliament to deliver what people voted for on Brexit, whether it be leading us through the horrors of COVID and restoring our freedoms, or most recently uniting the West and arming Ukraine so that she could resist Russia's invasion. And these are all things which are genuine, very substantive achievements, and any Prime Minister ought rightly to be proud of them. Boris has had to deal with more in just over 3 years than many people would in 10. And I think that is the legacy for which he will be ultimately remembered. It's certainly the reason why I am personally enormously grateful for all he did for our party.
He ended with a call for party unity. You're far closer to the Conservative Party than I ever will be, but when was the last time the party was united? I can't remember.
Well, I think, as Boris rightly said, the situation is one which demands unity of purpose and action, because we all recognise the huge scale of the challenge we face, whether that be the immediate cost of living pressures which confront families and businesses, or the need to galvanise the recovery from COVID, which the war in Ukraine has cut across. There is an enormous task in front of this government, and that's even before you come to the long-term mission on which this government was elected to deliver, of uniting and levelling up the UK.
But the country, not from you personally, Mr. Clarke, but the country's heard this before. They voted for David Cameron. They ended up with Theresa May, and Mr. Cameron saying we must unite. They voted for Theresa May and they got Boris Johnson. Theresa May say we must unite. And now that Boris Johnson's gone and we've got Liz Truss. Why should my listeners believe a word these Conservatives say?
Well, they should believe that there is total commitment to get on with the job of delivering for them. Well, I mean, look, I did not want Boris Johnson to be removed as Prime Minister. Liz Truss did not want Boris Johnson to be removed as Prime Minister. The circumstances of recent years have been genuinely tumultuous. These have been the most extraordinary years since the end of the Second World War. And there have been massive political debates, rightly, I think, mirroring the scale of the decisions and the choices facing the country. But Liz has won an emphatic mandate in this contest. She's won the support of the most MPs.
Mr. Clarke,
she's won 57% of the members,
Clarke,
and crucially, we now need to get behind her.
You are a numbers man, Mr. Clarke. She has failed to get to 60% of the party. Even Ian Duncan Smith, all those years ago, got north of 60. I can't remember a Conservative leader who failed to get a figure beginning with a 6. Please don't tell me that's emphatic. It's the lowest majority that I can recall in decades. That is the reality, Mr. Clarke.
Well, I think most people would say that winning an election with 50. No, I wouldn't. I think most people would say that
you're saying my
my
figures are wrong, sir.
I'm saying that winning an election with 57% of the vote is a clear margin of victory. I think you
Boris
yourself,
Johnson had 67. Ian Duncan Smith had north of 60. It ain't a great one, is it?
Nick, the precise figures are immaterial, because the reality is it is a clear mandate. It is a clear victory, and losing ourselves in the scope of the discussion about what people's margin of victory was is far less important than the task in front of us, which is to get on with governing. And actually, I would gently point out that since the middle of August, Liz had switched her focus rightly to the business of preparing for government, noting that there was an enormous job of work in front of us, and that the responsible thing to do was to prepare for that transition rather than chasing every last vote. If she'd won by 61% or 62%, it would make no difference to the magnitude of the decisions. We'd just be less well prepared for government today.
I only reference those points because you talked about unity. Lastly, can you give us any insight Newspapers today are talking about the £100 billion energy plan. I'm sure I'm going to hear from you that we need to let the new Prime Minister get in position, but can you shed any more light on that, Mr. Clarke?
Well, what I can say is that, Liz and the whole of the government that she will lead recognises that this is a moment where the public and businesses are looking for a decisive intervention to look after their interests at a very unsettling time. And I can pledge, as Liz has said over the weekend, that there will be immediate action to address the seriousness of the situation and to set out a plan to make sure that we do look after those people during the course of the winter ahead. I can't preempt that. You wouldn't really expect me to today, but I can say that we get it, and that the answers are coming very shortly in a way which I think will provide the reassurance that people and businesses are looking for, that we are up to the magnitude of the task and that we recognise the seriousness of their concerns.
Interesting you referenced lastly the word businesses. Next time we speak, will you be the business secretary, Mr. Clarke?
I can't speculate on what appointments will be made, but what is really good is that we will be getting a new government with a mandate to take effective action, and everyone, myself included, has obviously been frustrated over the course of the summer as we've had to go through a leadership contest. And the time now is for action. We've got 3 weeks of this parliamentary sitting before the party conferences. We are determined to make every one of those sitting days count to govern in the national interest.
I'm grateful for your time. Thank you. Chief Secretary of the Treasury, Simon Clarke, appearing here on LBC, where the time is 4 minutes before 8. Now let's get some of your reactions on what you've heard from Boris Johnson, or of course Liz Truss prior to that. Mickey in Bermondsey, who do you want to go with first, Liz Truss or Boris Johnson? Good morning.
Good morning, Nick. How are you?
Good.
Well?
Yeah, I'm fine, thanks, Sport. Who are you going to talk to me about, sir?
I want to talk to you about Liz Truss, and what I want to talk about really, Nick, is Sadiq Khan. We see Sadiq Khan accountable for what he's done to Londoners.